grinding on the table for my team. Every night I flex, I'm making big moves.
Hello, everyone. We are pleased to welcome Jeff Arnold, who is the CEO and founder of Sharecare and a former CEO and founder of WebMD. Mr. Arnold was also the chairman and CEO of HowStuffWorks.com, which was an award-winning online resource used by millions of people. Sharecare, which is what we'll be talking about here today, is a leading health and wellness engagement platform that provides people with personalized information, programs, and resources to improve their health, whether they download the Sharecare app themselves or access it on a platform through a self-insured employer health plan, or coming soon, a health system. So, Jeff, welcome to the table.
Great. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. And I was just joking with you before the show. As a former hypochondriac, I always joke with my friends that growing up, WebMD was my homepage. I know you had sold that a few years ago and have been building up now one of my favorite new companies, which is, of course, Sharecare. And being so active on FinTwit myself, we've seen a handful of folks, talking about Sharecare, but it really just baffles me overall how everyone is not pounding the table on Sharecare. So I'm here today. I'd love to change that. And so for our 25,000 listeners and growing, in its most basic form, like how would you describe Sharecare and why, more importantly, should folks be excited about the future?
Well, first of all, on WebMD being your homepage as a hypochondriac, that was always my joke that I created that for my brother because he needed that. He needed a place to go as well. so I can relate to that. Well, I think, the best way to kind of talk about Sharecare is kind of how we started, which is I've been in digital healthcare for, much of my career. And when we started WebMD, I think that was before Google. And so it was a long time ago. My kids don't believe me when I tell them that, but health needed to have a homepage because even way back then, it was super fragmented. There wasn't a place that you could go to that could collaborate with your doctor or your health plan or your employer. I think the idea wasn't ready yet because we were missing one key element, and that was the smartphone. And we were still kind of tethered to our desktops back then. And, when the smartphone became so pervasive, we just thought, gosh, what an amazing enabling technology for healthcare. Maybe the greatest health invention we'll ever see. Mm-hmm. And what if we could, create a platform where we could bring the ecosystem to the palm of the person's hand. And so the same way you don't have 10 apps to manage your money, why would you have 10 apps to manage your health? And so instead of having to go to the hospital's portal or download the insurance company's app, or just think about your benefits during open enrollment, we should bring that to the individual. And more importantly, give that person data ownership. So if they, quit their job or change their doctor or change their health plan, their data would go with them just like their money goes with them. And if we did that well, we'd start to build trust with people. And the promise that I think Sharecare holds through the smartphone and the platform is that together we can move healthcare from being episodic, right? I only think about it when I'm sick to every day. And the pandemic has shined a lot of light on the importance of well-being, right? So it's not just your physical health, it's your mental health, it's your financial health. We're realizing that where we live, work, and play matters to our health, our environment. And so Sharecare, through our capabilities and what we've been building for the last 8-9 years or so is really well equipped, I think, to take this by storm and really make a massive difference in people's lives.
Yeah, and what I think is really great about Sharecare is that you guys have been at this for a while, right? And the experience of the team is quite vast. And what I really want to know about Sharecare more than anything is how you guys are so profitable already. I think there's a lot of SPACs that are coming through the pipeline right now, and they have, revenue estimates and profit estimates far off in the future. But you guys not only have profits and great growing revenues, but a lot of that is already contracted and locked in ahead of time. So it's really good to see over time, your balance sheets are going to be very clean. So maybe talk to us about those different revenue streams and how Sharecare is able to do that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. When I think about WebMD, it was brand and then business. Like we built this giant brand and then we had to build a business. And with Sharecare, I think we've built an amazing business and now we're starting to build brand. And the way that we've done that is we've said, we're going to build this one platform. And so we can get leverage off it being one platform and not, many different apps and websites. And we're going to go sell that to enterprise. And so enterprise for us are government clients and self-insured employers like a Delta or big insurance companies like an Anthem. And we've been able to generate $239 million this year in revenue just from that one segment. And then we're able to take that same platform and we move it to the provider space. And we say, doctors are going to start to take risks just like insurance companies are. And couldn't health systems use our platform to help take better care of their patients and have the same kind of connectivity that employers and health plans want? And so we've already built that up to be a $104 million division for us. And then lastly, we're also not only B2B, but we're also B2B2C. And the thinking there was, you can't spend $1 billion on a platform over time or more, buy numerous companies to create all the capabilities, have a vision to transform healthcare, and then say, look, the only way the person gets it is if their insurance company or employer buys it for them. And so we said consumers should be able to download the app too. They won't have all the same functionality, but they'll have a lot of functionality that can start to empower them. And our hopes are they'll go to their employer and say, you should connect to Sharecare too. That's a $65 million division for us. And what else is great about that is I'm able to take all that revenue that we get in our direct-to-consumer business and plow it back into really high-quality content that I leverage in my enterprise business. And, you can tell from my background of HowStuffWorks and WebMD and other stuff, I still believe content's king. And that what's really going to make a difference here in the spirit of going to every day is every content experience needs to be unique to the person. So your experience should be different than mine. And so I need to have the high quality content to be able to deliver against that promise. And those three operating units, generating over $400 million in revenue and positive EBITDA, gives us, I think, a really great financial profile.
Yeah, that's definitely, exciting. Obviously, we're always looking at the fundamentals behind companies. And you mentioned something that we'll get into just a little bit more here in just a second, but like this personalization, right? So everyone is unique in their own way. But coming back here just to kind of some of those partnerships, right? So you mentioned the Anthem investment. So that one personally really caught my eye. Obviously, a massive household name for many, right? They invested 25 million. And then I actually looked again and saw they added an additional 25 million, right? Invested as that player. So I'd love to talk about that in just a second, but you guys also have these great relationships on the consumer side with, Oprah, Discovery, Sony Pictures. And most recently, we just saw the news, obviously, with the Atlanta Hawks. I'm a huge NBA fan. So you guys picked a great team. They're in the conference finals here, but, why would a digital health company advertise with a basketball team?
Yeah. Well, let me, I can answer that whole question from Oprah to Anthem to the Hawks.
I know there was a lot to unpack there.
But there's actually kind of a method to that madness. So prior to the PIPE that we did as part of the SPAC, where we raised $425 million, we raised $500 million privately. And the thinking was, as we were building our cap table, was Amazon's coming to healthcare, just like Amazon's coming to every other place in our life. And, they're taking out insurance licenses and doing pharmacy work. And this could be an amazing moment to use Amazon as a catalyst to inspire big trusted brands to innovate. And so we said, well, if we were going to try to organize healthcare for what Sharecare needs to be successful, we said, hey, there's a living room component here, there's an exam room component here, and there's a workplace component here. So in the living room, we got Oprah and Sony and Discovery Channel and Hearst and Dr. Oz to invest, have done some amazing things over the years, from running some of their social or doing live events with Oprah to, get people to learn how to live their best life. Then we moved to the exam room. And what I learned at WebMD was, that you can't cut out the doctor, that the technology should enable the patient provider relationship, not break it apart. And so we got HCA, which is the largest for-profit hospital, to invest, Trinity Health, which is one of the largest not-for-profit, many more, including the largest one here in Georgia in December called Wellstar. And the vision there is how do you create a Sharecare enabled doctor so that when you see this logo at your doctor's office, that tells you that you can share your data with your doctor on Sharecare and that your doctor can prescribe Sharecare. And I think that's going to be really huge in the next 3 to 5 years. And then Anthem was all a part about getting into the workplace. And so as we started learning about this, we were like, well, who pays for healthcare? And in the spirit of kind of the Amazon example, who's got big presence? And so Anthem's got 44 million members, second largest insurance company. And we got them to invest in an effort also to try to kind of unify Blue Cross Blue Shield, because we also got an investment from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Maryland. We do work with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Minnesota and others. And so, getting them all together, they're a hugely trusted brand. They got massive reach, but the short answer is, how do we become their digital ally? And so when they look for innovation, when they look for engagement, when they look for better outcomes, when they look for lower healthcare costs, and maybe most importantly, when they look for higher member satisfaction, Sharecare as their digital ally is helping them achieve those goals.
Yeah, I really like the multi-pronged approach you have there. I think it's making it a very community that people will, they see the logo, they'll be feeling that comfort. They'll be able to tell that they can share their information and then track their health with any provider with that. So I think that's really awesome. I also recently read about this partnership you have with Celebrity Cruise Lines with the travel verification side of the business, which is obviously very exciting, given that everything's opening back up. But really wanted to know there, how does a cruise ship actually get Sharecare verified?
Okay, that's another great question. And I got to finish the Hawks answer. So here's the 10 seconds on the Hawks. So one of our largest customers is the state of Georgia. So we have 650,000 employees enrolled in Sharecare. So that's like 200,000 public school teachers and others. We went to the governor and we said, our community well-being index says that Georgia ranks 31st in well-being. And we've reverse engineered the data and we can get to top 20, but it's going to take leadership. We need you to enroll all state employees into Sharecare. And then we will not just activate employees, but we're going to activate the entire state. So we got partnered with the Hawks as these patch deals were happening. And we said, hey, could we partner together under like a hashtag we care and an effort to not be an advertiser, but to create a movement throughout the state of Georgia that the governor has led, but now all Fortune 500 companies in Georgia should join, and Delta being an example of one who has. And so that we can rally the state around the Sharecare platform, all in an effort to improve well-being. And we've used the passion of basketball and the reach of basketball to drive that movement message. So that's just to kind of put a bow on that. And it's been great. And the playoffs have been wonderful for the team and for us and getting that message out. When the pandemic hit, we said, look, there's going to be a new category that emerges, and it's going to be called health security. And think of health security like cybersecurity. Cybersecurity, protects infrastructure against a virus. Health security is going to prevent people against a virus. And there's all these things that offices are doing, that schools are doing, that live venues are doing, that hotels are doing, that cruise ships are trying to do. And it's really confusing because they're all doing their own thing. And so we said, there's got to be a way that we can tech enable this, create a conversational AI chatbot with all the analytics, partner in every vertical with subject matter experts. So Forbes Travel Guide, as an example, in travel, or CAA, Icon, Oakview Group, and live events, and build protocols out that every month a hotel GM or a cruise ship can log in and go through all the protocols and make sure they're compliant. And the ships are really cool because they do it at every stop. And so at every port, and we did Celebrity being a big one as the first cruise ship to leave the US. And it gives, kind of an audit trail, and it creates a culture of accountability that has really taken off for us. My marketing department was telling me that we've generated over 3 billion media impressions of people promoting the fact that they're Sharecare verified. And it's already been adopted in 75 countries. And yes, that translates into revenue opportunity, but it also translates into a great branding opportunity, so that for some people, when they see Sharecare for the first time, because they haven't gotten it from their employer yet, for example, they're seeing that we're doing mission critical work on behalf of digital health, making sure that you're safe.
So Jeff, let's talk a little bit about some of the acquisitions. So we actually had the opportunity to talk with your colleague a few months back with Walter DeBrouwer, who really brought this incredible insight. And I know obviously you guys had this interview the other day with IPO Edge and kind of touched on a little bit about that acquisition. They had 77 engineers you brought over. I think it was like 11 PhDs, and they're really all a bunch of quote unquote futurists. And this is something that I'm super excited about and passionate about. I read this book called Physics of the Future by Mikhail Kaku. And I think it was just going back to that notion of having this kind of unique healthcare plan for each individual. So this individualized perspective rather than a blanketed statement and saying, hey, this prescription drug may be good for every single person. That's just not the reality, right? There's going to be millions and millions of people. People have different DNA, different things like that. I really wanted to think about, how you're going to bring Doc AI into the broader solution and the broader platform of Sharecare, and just thinking about that a little bit more of some future things that may be coming in that realm.
Sure. Well, Walter's brilliant and crazy.
He was great.
But so these are all the things I like about Doc AI, and here's where we're going with it. So one is outside of the people, that I think it's just an amazing cultural fit. It's kind of like hand in glove, that we have a lot of data, and AI needs data, and we need insights, which AI can provide. And I like the fact that they already had learned over the last few years how to work with a large payer. So I don't know if Walter told you, but Anthem was a $45 million investor. They had executed a $100 million AI contract with Doc AI that we got to assume those contracts as part of the acquisition. That was great. But they've been working with a giant health plan for some time with AI. And if you had to say, give me the elevator pitch of what's the bottom line they do, I think of it as next best action. So when you look at the data and you run the AI on it, what's the next best action for each one of us as it relates to managing our well-being? So I think that's going to be a big deal for Sharecare. So when you think about creating the ultimate advocate, like if Sharecare was your best friend, if Sharecare was your advocate, if Sharecare was your doctor, your HR department, for your medical, for your vision, for your dental, for the right drug at the right time, we're going to have that capability in-house. And we're really trying to leverage our data first. And so the way that we get data at Sharecare, which again makes this a hand in glove opportunity, is we get self-reported data. So we've had 50 million people take the Real Age test. We get device-driven data. Yeah. So we have 50 million people have told us about their lifestyle and medical history. We bought a company in Berlin a few years ago. And so we have data scientists over there, and they're really good at extracting data from the phone with the person's permission. So whether I'm hitting the accelerometer for steps or tracking sleep, but real important behavioral data. And then at Sharecare, on our B2B business, we integrate all your claims data before you ever log in. So let's say you're a Delta employee. First time you log into Sharecare, I've preloaded your medications, your procedures, your conditions, your immunizations, a whole bunch of data that we get from the claims, medical, pharmacy, and lab. And then lastly, a couple other things that we do, and this is important for AI, we know data at every zip code in America on physical health, mental health, financial health, et cetera. So think of us sitting on kind of like the heartbeat of America. So we have all this environmental data. And then in just this year alone, we'll go from collecting 4 million medical records last year to 5 million medical records this year. That's how we generate that $100 million in revenue on the provider side. So you take all that data, and then I put the AI on top of it, and I say the best next action is the mission. And oh, by the way, I have an app that's sitting on the other end of the conversation, right on the individual's phone, that we can now message to, that we can motivate the person through, that we can manage the person's data. And then collectively as an ecosystem, we can measure effectiveness, continue to use the AI and the machine learning to optimize the experience so that people truly can live their best life. And there's all kinds of bells and whistles that come with this, like the ability, I saw we got a patent issued to us a couple of weeks ago where I can take your picture like a selfie and it'll tell you what your BMI is. So think of it as like a Real Age 2.0. I can take a picture of my plate of food and it'll tell me what's on my plate and estimate the calories.
Wow.
And where I think this is all going is this idea of research to care. And so what my massive hope is for Sharecare, 3 years from now, that what the brand stands for, and this is how we build community, is I share my data with Sharecare, and that helps give me insights for my health. But I'm also sharing my data de-identified so that so I can give insights for our health. So think of it almost like an Operation Warp Speed, like how the vaccine came to market. How do we go from research to care at accelerated rates as we build community around some of the things I just mentioned?
I know these are partnerships that had happened in the past with, Walmart and Amazon, but I'd love to hear your perspective on UI and kind of the power of voice and potentially anything else that's coming up here in the future to kind of wrap the interview up of like, what should we be the most excited about coming up over the next couple of years here? Yeah.
Well, I think what we've done to date, that's pretty awesome, is that we've come up with this idea of the 5 M's. So whether you're the employer or you're the health plan or you're the doctor or you're Sharecare, together do we have the tools that we can message the person through one timeline? So we have the authoring tools and the analytics, that there's a wellness currency called the Green Day that does macro tracking that we all get behind, that we manage data the same way so we can keep this secure and private and scalable, that we have dashboards that are our version of transparency to measure effectiveness real time, so we can adapt on the fly and make sure this is all working. And lastly, we create a movement. So because we've surround sounded you as an individual, that we make the healthy choice the easy choice.
Mhm.
And where that will go, the healthy choice is the easy choice, I think is in two kind of logical places. Is one is Sharecare will be the ways for how you navigate your well-being. So the same way you use Waze, to navigate traffic to, to get wherever you're going to, you're gonna see all this data start to come to life in what I call app to map. And so, I'm gonna basically turn all these topics we're talking about into points of interest. And those points of interest are going to be influenced by the best next action for you. And so if you were just trying to imagine like a Waze type experience, but all based on, well-being and points of interest that help you, make sure you do your doctor's appointment or avoid health deserts or refill your prescription, that's all coming fast. And then second is, you probably have heard me say in the past, is this idea of the new UI will be no UI.
Yep.
And like all the data that we're structuring today is so I can call it on a voice command. So it's content today through Alexa, but it's going to be much more personalized data over time. Mm-hmm. So I can literally say, like, I have no idea the last time I had my eye exam.
Yeah.
It was last year with COVID. There was it 2 years ago. And so I need to be able to call that out. When did I have a health exam? What was my cholesterol last year? Mm-hmm. Refill my prescription, schedule my doctor's appointment. What is gout? Somebody of my family members asking me about that, and it all needs to be at our fingertips. And I think Sharecare has the data and has the content and has the know-how to, to make that a reality sooner rather than later.
You guys are going to be de-SPACing into the Sharecare ticker symbol. So SHCR.
That's it.
Fantastic. Well, we couldn't be more excited. Final question here is one, we would love to be verified at some point, but for all of our guests we do bring on the show, if we get them to pound the table, we then send them a gavel, a customized gavel.
Yeah, no, what you guys do is hugely important. Like we want people to be aware of Sharecare, and having enthusiastic folks like yourself that understand what we're doing and talking about it, greatly appreciated. And if you ever want any of us to come back on the show and tell you about the progress we're making,
welcome anytime.
Can't wait. Thank you.
Jeff, thanks so much.
Okay, take care.
See ya.